Siapa nama? Mutin Pak. Mutin.
Well, good morning, everyone. I would like to start whether my microphone is on. Please type yes on the column chat or chat box if you can hear my voice clearly. All right, perfect. Thank you for quick response. Well, our webinar is about to start in 10 minutes. I would like to check the keynote speaker whether they have joined our webinar. I saw Ibu K. Ibu K. Okay, I see your hand. Ibu K, would you mind to turn on your microphone? We will check or testify your microphone. How are you? Hello, Ibu. Hello, good morning, Ibu. Good morning, Ibu. I can hear your voice here.
Hello, good morning.
Would you mind to repeat once again, Ibu? Good morning, Ibu. It might be an issue on the microphone. While waiting for Ibu K, I want to see another keynote speaker. Ibu Prof. Artini, have you connected with us? Well, while waiting for keynote speaker, I saw some of my colleagues from university It's great to see you again in another event.
Select a different microphone. Please speak to your microphone. Hello, hello.
Yes.
Okay,
Dah.
okay.
Okay, I'm
Hello.
pleased you can join us, Ibu K.
Yeah,
How are you, Ibu?
okay, I think we've got it working. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly, Ibu.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear
Thank
me?
you.
Yes,
Yes. Hello.
exactly,
Okay.
Ibu. Hello, Ibu.
Hello,
Hi.
Ibu. How are you, Ibu Kay?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, Ibu Artini.
Hello, Daddy.
Long time no see, Ibu.
Long time no see, yeah?
The last time I saw you is on storytelling, Ibu.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Me
It
too.
was
Oh,
very
did.
interesting story.
Yeah,
My daughter loved it very much.
really, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about literacy on Friday as well. So
You know what?
yeah.
I registered already.
Oh, good, good, good.
Thank you, Ibu. Your voice is very clear.
Yeah, I changed my laptop. Yeah, actually, I cannot work it out with the new laptop, so I use the old one.
But it's clear is here now, Ibu. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
hope the internet is okay. Sometimes it's up and down. So I hope everything
Hopefully,
is
Ibu.
just smooth. Yeah. So we are expecting to finish at 12 o'clock. Is that right?
Yeah, it's around that, Ibu.
And I'm going to have 20 minutes. Is that right?
Yes, 20 minutes for presentation.
I don't think I can make it 20 minutes. Ibu Kay, can you make it 20 minutes?
Yeah, yes,
Mm. If
15
you can,
minutes.
yeah, if you can let me more than that, like 10 minutes more, because it's not easy for me to get to the focus without, doing some basic thing. I don't know whether you can let me another 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I can be shorter.
No, I mean, no, to the committee. Committee, are you going to be strict 20 minutes? If so, then I have to.
We will make a time for you, Ibu.
Okay, thank you. 30 minutes will be fine with me.
Okay, thank you. And I wonder whether Bapak Suar has joined our meeting today. Bapak Suar, can you hear me? Okay. While waiting for the third speaker, I will play some videos. Well, I saw the third speaker, Bapak Suar. Hello, Bapak Suar. How are you today, Bapak?
I'm fine.
Hello, Bapak.
Yeah,
Okay, how are you today, Bapak?
I'm fine. And you?
I'm excellent, Bapak. I'm excellent to moderate this webinar today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Hello,
thank
Bapak
you.
Suar.
Yeah, betul.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for your participation in
Thank
this
you.
webinar. Okay, how are you, Kay?
Hello, I'm fine. Glad to be here.
Okay. I'm happy to see you all the participants in this webinar.
Apa ini? Ada. Oh,
Our rector, the rector of the Gender University, is also joining us today. Good morning, Bapak Rektor.
Yes, I'm coming. Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Bapak. How are you today, Bapak?
Fine, fine.
Okay, thank you for joining the webinar today, Bapak.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we are about to start the webinar today. The committee, please post the link of the YouTube. So you can share the link of the YouTube so more people can see and watch our webinar today. Because we have very limited seat, so you can watch our webinar today on YouTube. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening for all of you wherever you base now. Welcome to our first international webinar on freedom to learn in new normal. I am your moderator of this webinar, Dedi Susila. This webinar will be officially opened by the Rector of the Gendra University, Dr. Insinyur Gede Serana MSc MMA. The time is yours, Bapak.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Dedik, as the moderator. I would like to introduce myself first. I'm Gede Sadana, the rector of Gendra University. Thank you very much for all of the participants, and especially for the speakers, Professor Loputu Artini, lecturer from Ganesha University of Pendidikan Ganesha, Kai Ikra Gara, in a PhD, a postgraduate program specialist, higher education, leadership and management, Harmonic International. I'm Dr. Ketut Suar Adnyani as the Vice Rector for the Academic Affairs in the Gendra University. Again, thank you very much for your joining and international webinar.
yeah.
I think this international webinar with the topic freedom to learn and the new normal well by the English Language Education, Faculty of Teacher Training and Pedagogy, Dwi Jendra University, is very important to discuss today. Because now we have the bad experiences about the pandemic, COVID-19, and now also the government already launched inform about the schemes for the new normal, but we still have the cases about the pandemic, not only in Bali, including in Indonesia, in other provinces. So in this international webinar, I think what we are talking about, what we are discussing today, I hope will be very, very important for all of the participants, for all of the community, what we have to do after we discuss today. So again, thank you very much for all of participants. I would like also to introduce Dwi Jendra University. We have 5 faculties. The first one is the Faculty of Teacher Training and Pedagogy. We have the Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Law, Faculty of Communication, and the Faculty of Agriculture. So we have 5 faculties. Now, in the event of the pandemic 19, from the Jendra University, try to invite the expert to talk, to discuss what we have to do. So in this international webinar, I hope, I expect a lot from the speakers and then from the participants to give the solution for all of us here. So our international webinar will be beneficial for all of the people. So officially, the international webinar I open. And thank you very much. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for the opening remarks, Bapak Rektor.
Welcome.
Well, before we get started, now it's a great time to review some of the technical aspects of today's webinar. The first one, the participants are expected to mute the microphone during the presentation. But don't worry, you can still contribute. You can respond to the material via chat or simply use emoticon. You can clap, you can show your thumbs up on the emoticon. And the webcam video should remain on during the webinar. The next one, if you have any question, if you have wait a moment. If you have any question, you can ask directly on the presentation via chat, and all the questions will be sorted and selected to able to represent all of the questions. So we will have no question and answer exercise, but only we discuss the question being asked on the column chat. So directly, if you have any question, just put on the chat box there while the presenter present their materials. Well, each presenter or speaker will be given 15 to 20 minutes. It's around that. We will make a time for you to present the presentation. And the last one, the link of the certificate will be sent at the end of the session. So make sure that you won't leave the webinar before you fill up the survey of certificate. Well, that's about technical aspect of today's webinar. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our topic is about freedom to learn in new normal. As we know, a new era is about to begin. New normal is a strategic policy taken by government to run in a pandemic. New normal still seem empower the power of blended learning, where have a very limitation on face-to-face communication, face-to-face class, and also very limited direct instruction to the students. This is a challenge, as well as a great opportunity for all of us to be an activator of students, to actify their autonomous or autonomy in learning. Well, that will be the discussion of today's webinar. Before we discuss it, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker today. The first keynote speaker is Professor Dra. Luh Putu Artini, MA, PhD. She is currently senior lecturer at Universitas Pendidikan Ganesha. So, she graduated from English Language Education, Udayana University, Bali, and continued to MA on Applied Linguistics at La Trobe University, Australia. And finally got a PhD on education at Newcastle University, Australia. Well, the second speaker is Ibu K. Ikra Nagara, MA, PhD. She is an education specialist. Um, she graduated from anthropology at University of California and continued to study about linguistics on University of California. And finally got PhD on linguistics at University of Hawaii. The last but not the least, the third speaker is Dr. Iketut Suar Adnyana M. Home. He is currently Vice Rector 1 of Dwijendra University. He holds 2 bachelor programs on different majors. The first one is Pendidikan Bahasa dan Sastra Indonesia, FKIP Unut Singaraja. And also another bachelor programs on Sastra Inggris Fakultas Sastra Universitas Udayana. And then he continued to linguistic study at program Pasca Sarjana Universitas Udayana. And the last one, he got doctoral programs at Universitas Udayana. Well, that was the brief introduction of our speaker. I would like to invite the first speaker, Professor Artini, to present her presentation today. Ibu, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Dedi. Yeah.
Please,
And
Ibu.
I have to say also thank you very much for Dwijendra University for inviting me to this webinar. And I'm happy to do a presentation on the topic of freedom to learn and instructional design. Let me share my my slide. Can you see this?
All right, perfect, Ibu.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Yes, the title of my presentation today is, wait, I moved this, yeah, is instructional design and the new normal, yeah. I start with my, the outline of my presentation. I have a problem, yeah. So I'm going to start with the background here, and I'm going to talk about the current situation in Indonesian universities and also some characteristic of university student, because it's important to understand the instructional design that I'm going to discuss at the end in the last part. And then I also will talk about the freedom to learn in the context of 21st century learning, and then our current situation on the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak and the new normal era. And then I'm going to discuss about the instructional design of the new era with example from my student work. This is the current situation now, as we know that we are in the era of 21st century learning and also Industrial Revolution 4.0. This bring about tremendous change with the approaches of learning, especially in tertiary educations. Because when we talk about the Industrial Revolutions here, we are talking about the different expected skills for the graduates. Yeah, expected skill from the graduate when they come to the labor force, when they finish their study. So this is really important in as the determinant of the instructional design in the university. And also in the current situation in Indonesia, we have a new policy that is launched just at the beginning of this year, which is freedom to learn policy in higher education. And there is also a sudden disruption in the situation with the COVID-19 pandemic in which classes are suspended. So we start learning from home. So when we talk about university students, we actually talk about adult learners. We can consider them adult learners with a very specific characteristic in which they have more responsibility to their own learning. In comparison to school, for sure, we know that in school, teacher have to tell them what to do, teacher have to tell the student what to read, but in the universities, student can decide their own focus of learning. So they are also mature, they decide on something on their own, and then they have clear goal in life. Why? Because they are approaching their career world. So when they're approaching their career world, they have already have the intention in life, the idealism, and they are self-motivated. So in comparison with school students, the teacher have to work hard. They work really hard to motivate their students. But here, the university students supposed to motivate themselves. And they have longer learning experience, so they become analytical to some things because of the long experience of learning. For example, in formal education alone, they start 6 years in primary school, 3 years in junior high, and then another 3 years in senior high school, which make them have a very thing. They have experience of learning. They develop also strategies and approaches to learning. And also they have the autonomy in learning in which they have their needs and they have to do something according to their need. And they also have the ability to adjust the learning strategies to achieve their goals. So from the university, from the psychological perspective, university students have the characteristic, from the cognitive point of view, they have a fully understanding of the abstract concept and be aware of consequences. So this is very important to know that they are aware of the consequences, the cause and effect of their decision, and then they also being able to identify their career goals, and they are prepared to achieve the goals. And then also they develop skills, hobbies, and adult interest. Now we are going to the Indonesian vision in education. We know that in 2020, just recently, there is a new policy in higher educations. And some are refined from Indonesian higher education curriculum. For example, from the country level, the target of the country is to produce sound human resources. So what is meant by sound human resources here are the human resources with the quality and skills that are needed in the future, in which automation is at place because of the industrial revolution 4.0. And then also the latest policy with the freedom to learn for students, and that university teachers nowadays are requested to become an activator. An activator here is to activate the students to do on their own. Yeah, with the freedom to learn in Indonesia, this is, I have to also review a little bit on this. Why freedom to learn is now at place. So there are some background, there are some rationale. The first one is that students are diverse in aspiration, capabilities, and interest. So for this reason, students should be given freedom to learn according to their wishes and interests. And then also learning occurs through various activities beyond realm of education program. So for this reason, students should have chance to learn not only in the classroom. So they are given opportunity to explore outside their classroom. And this is from the latest regulation from the Ministry of Education and Culture, that we start from S1 program in a university, which is the first degree program. They have to finish 8 semesters with 144 credit hour to 160 credit hour, in which 3 semesters out of the 8 semester, or the total of 60 credit hour, will consist of experiential learning outside their home study program. And then also the aim for the freedom to learn is to improve graduate competence, either soft and hard skills. Soft skill here refers to, for example, the problem solving skill, leadership skill, for example, and critical learning, thinking skills. There are thinking skills which comprise of logical thinking, objective thinking, and also critical thinking, creative thinking. So they have to improve. And then facilitate students to develop their potentials and passion, and help students to build their life and career skills, and promote character building. So that's freedom to learn in university. And this is what everybody know already. So I have to mention a little bit of this. This is really the basis of freedom to learn, so that students can learn life and career skill, because it is not possible for them to sit down inside of the classroom all the time to get this. So they are given opportunity to step out of the classroom, and they learn about life and career skills through, for example, intensive program or other things. And they're also learning and also innovational skills. So this is also the skill that not possible to be built only inside of the classroom. And also this is to do with technology. Yeah, so this is the technology skills. And this is according to the government policy. So according to the government policy, there are activities for freedom to learn in Indonesia. For example, they have to go through a student exchange program, and this is already at place in all universities in Indonesia. So there are many kind of cooperations between cooperation and partnership among universities all around Indonesia for the student to take courses in other universities. And also intensive program, teaching assistant, especially as a university like Dwi Jendra University, which have the teacher training faculty. So this is very important for them to have teaching assistant in outstanding school around Bali or maybe outside Bali. And then also to do research, to do humanity project, to do entrepreneurship, and then also independent study of project and thematic community services. So these are the activities for freedom to learn in Indonesia. Now we go on to the current situation. So that's what happened. I mean, that's what has been announced by the government with a new policy. What happened now? Well, now we know that freedom to learn is just, launched, the policy. So the regulation and the bureaucracy are in the stage of the process. So it's still underway. So in other words, we are in the transitional period. And education reform has been anticipated for 5 years to settle, because this is really a big thing. It's a really, really big things in Indonesia. The bright ideas the brilliant ideas from our new minister, that freedom to learn have to change the mindset of all the lecturers who are used to conventional teaching with the dominant roles inside of the classroom lecturing. So this is really a big education reform in tertiary educations. And then the current situation also with the COVID-19, that we are stepping forward the new normals. And I know that from the latest announcements that the school will be open on the 13th of July with a very strict and careful process of adaptation. But in higher education or university, we are still advised to go on with learning from home. So maybe we have to do it for another semester for studying from home. Why? Because it is considered that in higher education, it's very appropriate for adult learners to work on their own. As we know, we just talk about the characteristic of university students, that they are autonomous learners, they are more independent, they have their own responsibility, they can motivate themselves. So it is very possible that this kind of teaching model is still practiced. And that's why we have new forms of learning. So new forms of learning in school level, there is still a process of adaptation with the curriculum. So the Ministry of Education and Culture are now in the process of working so hard to do an adaptation. In the university level, the adaptation is also needed. Yeah, even though we are probably in the university level, the problem is not as severe as in the school, but there are some adjustment and adaptation need to be done. And then also that with the current situation, we are advantaged by the fact that we are dealing with adult learners who get used to autonomous learning. Get used to autonomous learning. So we are in transitional period, and we need to do curriculum refinement because of the freedom to learn. And then also we have to have instructional design, which accommodate the situations, the current situation, including the pandemic, and also including the 21st century learning, and including also freedom to learn. And also we have to not to ignore the use of technology. This is the instructional design that in the new normal that become the focus of my presentation today. So what are the things to consider in instructional design and new normals? Yeah, we know that teaching and learning from home and individual independent learning, we know what it is like what it was like when it is normal. in a normal class, usually teaching and learning occur inside of the classroom with a lot of lecturing, a lot of group work, a lot of project together, and then also a lot of presentations, student presentations, student peer teaching, student simulations, a lot of things that we cannot do now. And now we have to consider individual independent learning instead of group work that we usually utilize in the normal situations. And learning from various sources, that's the things that we have to do with our students now. We did that in a normal situation, but we have to do it more with the learning from home. And then learning through inquiry, student research. So we have to use this quite a lot with learning through inquiry based approach. And then also with student research. And we have to involve self-assessment. And we also have to encourage students to build their portfolio. And the stages for instructional design here, we start with the learning outcomes. We have to decide on the strategies of implementation, and then we also have to design the assessment. I give an example here. This is from my course called English for Young Learners. This is one of the courses in English Education Department. So this is an example that I give here from my class. So at the end of this course, students will be able to demonstrate an understanding of theories that are applicable in teaching English for young learners, and also apply theories and their strategies of implementation in English for young learners classes, apply various assessment options through the use of rubric, determine school-only literacy versus real-life literacy in English, and ways to accomplish them, and demonstrate ability to develop and implement effective lesson plan that promote the 21st century learning skill for young learners. So these are the outcome that I expect from my course. And how can I implement this? So this is how I implement this. For example, for the first outcome, demonstrate an understanding of theories that are applicable in teaching English for young learners. For example, here we talk about CTL, contextual teaching and learning, because when we talk about theories, there are a number of theories which are applicable for teaching English for young learners. Let's say that the topic is contextual teaching and learning. So what I did, first of all, I upload material for the student to read and study, and then organize discussions through learning management system of the university platform. So I know that all universities have e-learning platform, which is in which the material can be uploaded, and the students start learning on their own. They have to read the materials and they have to study, and then we organize a discussion online. So in this activity, the students are flexible in terms of time, because it's no need for us to set the time at the time like in the classroom, but we can give like a duration of 1 week to read and also to participate in the discussion. And then after that, I gave them a task. The student do research to find a video from YouTube about the practice of teaching English English to children, and they make a report. Yeah, it's a 1,000 word report comprising what happens, what concept are there behind the teaching and learning process, and what are the evidence. And then after that, at the end, I organize the meetup with Zoom meeting. So we have a face-to-face interaction discussing about their project. And also we enrich the discussion. I enrich the discussion with some confirmation and also additional additional information and ideas about strategies that come from contextual teaching and learning. And
sorry to interrupt, Ibu.
Yes.
You have 5 more minutes to present.
Okay, 5 more minutes, yes. And then applied theories, this is also I can do with the project. And I give the example of the project. These are the project of my students as an example that give them their autonomy. Yeah, this is a given autonomy for the student to learn. They build their portfolio, and in the portfolio they have their video of the presentation of the project, because in the project they so they can decorate their project. They can for example, they have the video. This is important for me to give the example of this, because this is really related to what I mentioned before. In this case, the student have the autonomy. They learn integrated skill that they have to adapt. They have to find the material. They have to adapt the material. They have to manage their time.
Prof. Artini, have you still connected with us?
Yes. Am I out?
No, no. Please, Ibu, continue.
Okay. I have to go back. Wait. Well, this is just an example of the work that the student do. And then, yes, just go on very quickly, just to conclude. They make video, and they also, about the theory and the implementation, they have to make stories. They have to have the 5-minute video of the story. They have to do improvisation, because they are targeted the young children. So there is a lot of learning from there. They have to find a story. They have to adapt the language. They have to make it 5 minutes. They have to do a video. They have to edit the video. They have to do the presentation with the improvisation for children. And they have to manage their 5 minutes. So a lot of things, they have to use the technology. So that's sort of things that the student can do while they have to study it at home. So the conclusion is that even though we have the learning from home, it doesn't mean that we have to lower the standard. So this is really a good opportunity for the students to learn on their own, but at the same time also to develop all the skills by themselves. So this is really a very good independent study, autonomous study, which actually I observe that it's even much better than the normal class, because in normal class we get used to everything, set in a very rigid way, a very, very rigid way. We have time to for pre-activity, whilst activity, post-activity, and they have homework and that sort of things. But now they are free to do things, but without ignoring or without neglecting the outcome that we are targeting together. I think that's all my presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ibu, for informative presentation and also interesting presentation. Before we go to the second speaker, I want to notice you one more things. If you have any question, just put it on the chat box below, okay? And then the second one, the material will be sent at the end of the session. Well, without any further ado, we go to the second speaker, Ibu K. Ibu K, are you ready? Ibu K?
Okay, are we up with the voice?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Perfect, Ibu. Perfect, Ibu.
Okay, good. Okay, fine. Okay, and can we put up the slides? Yeah. Okay, we're good. Shall I start in? Are we okay to start? Can you see the slides?
Yes, it can be seen clearly, Ibu. Please.
Okay, good. Okay, happy to be here today. This is about teaching and learning themes. Can we see the whole slide? Yes. Okay.
Yes, sure, Ibu.
So these are themes that are related to the theme of freedom to learn that I would like to discuss with you. I've been asked about these themes in US education. So freedom to learn encourages most learners' motivation and creativity. Of course, the US programs are different than in Indonesia for various reasons. I'll talk a little about my experience with these themes in US education, in kindergarten to 12 schooling, and in higher education. Can you hear me clearly?
Sure,
Can you
Ibu.
hear me clearly?
Sure.
Good. Okay. Next. Next slide. Thank you. There are also topics that are especially related to the time of COVID-19 that we need to consider. For example, students' performance assessments, school exams, phasing, starting and ending of school hours, reopening slowly, and health screening and testing for teachers and learners. Next. In US schooling, we have public schools which are funded by individual states from our taxes. Private schools are paid for by the students' families. Homeschooling means that parents choose to manage their own children's learning at home. Here are some examples of typical schools in the US that I'm familiar with. For example, a public school which is bilingual in Spanish and English. The teachers arrange for the students to work in small groups and to do individual projects. Another example is a homeschooling group of parents with yearly tests from the state on basic skills. Parents provide small group activities in turn, and individual families decide on the subjects to study and the scheduling. Next. In the US, schools often provide cross-subject courses. For example, some California schools in first grade concentrate on learning about California history, including reading literature about it, writing stories, reading history texts, and visiting historical sites. Next. US education offers many choices among courses starting in high school. For example, students are usually required to take one history course in high school. They can often select from American history or world history. Besides their required courses, they select others to make up the total required course credits. Next. Vocational courses are an option in high school, or high school students can often take vocational courses at a nearby community college or technical college and get credit at their high school for them. Next. During COVID-19, the teachers in the US have been working hard to assist students learning at home with online activities. What I have heard from them is that the online contact between the teacher and the other students has been very important. And this is no different from what university faculty members have found as we use more and more hybrid and online learning in universities. Next. Free-to-learn approaches for school teaching and learning offer challenges to an education system. The teachers work very intensively to meet the needs of different students. Unlike countries like Switzerland, where teachers are very well paid, US school teachers' pay is relatively low, and there are not enough teachers or school administrators. Facilities like computers, libraries, and laboratories are important for individualized learning, but there are gaps between schools in wealthier areas and poorer areas. The facilities aren't equal. Next. Turning to US universities, an important facility at most US universities is a service to provide free help from tech-savvy staff for students and faculty members for their digital learning and teaching. In US universities, we often find cross-subject courses. I'll give you one example. It's at a liberal arts college, which means one which concentrates on humanities and science education. It's a course taught jointly by all the faculty members over 2 years to all the new students with several lectures per week. It moves through history, covering different regions and periods such as ancient Asia, medieval Europe, and so on, covering fields such as literature, political science, sociology, and history of science. Students read a common reading list, and they meet in small groups with professors for discussion. The students write a paper each month, either based on a common topic from the course or selecting their own relevant topic to research. Next slide. US universities usually allow students to do independent studies with a faculty member's oversight. For example, a student proposed to study Sanskrit through reading Sanskrit literature instead of joining the usual linguistics course in Sanskrit. An interested faculty member agreed to oversee it. Next slide. Off-campus internships of many kinds can be taken for credit. For example, most US universities have an overseas study office where students can find programs to study or do internships abroad and get credit at their home university. Next slide. In university, the US students often select a major and minor subject. For example, an S1 or bachelor's degree student selects a major in biology and a minor in philosophy. Next slide. Oh, no, that's right. In university in the US, back slide. Thank you. In university in the US, students often select a major and minor subject. Sorry, we got that. Next slide. 13, yeah. In US university, students' courses of studies don't need to be linear. Here are several examples. A student with an S2 in anthropology did her S3 in linguistics. A student with an S2 in English education was admitted to do his S3 in vocational education. His interest was in teaching English to vocational students. A student with an S2 in literature was admitted for an S3 in sociology. His interest was in dystopian literature, which is literature about the future. Next. So there are many challenges for universities with freedom to learn. Faculty members have to be able to teach varied types of students and have to have time to keep up with their own learning. The freedom for students to change focus means they must be able to take longer to complete if necessary. The university may allow them to take a semester off in order to complete their studies. So these are examples of flexibility and freedom to learn for learners in the US education system. I'd like to hear your comments on these themes or questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ibu, for a very nice presentation. Well, we go through the third speaker, Bapak Suar. Please, the time is yours, Bapak.
Okay, thank you, Dedi, as a moderator in this webinar. Yeah, in this occasion, I would like to share my experiences in doing learning process on pandemic COVID-19, and I also try to raise the responsibility responsible from all of participants regarding my topic e-learning problem and solution. Okay, based on my topic, e-learning and problem and solution. So I would like to explain about what is the problem in doing e-learning process during the pandemic, and I would like to discuss about what is the best solution. So implemented during pandemic COVID-19. We have known that rapid development in ICT has changed paradigm in learning. The rapid development in ICT, okay, we do need the adaptation of curriculum. So the curriculum accommodate the need and interest of student. In Indonesia, we have competency-based curriculum. The competency covers to cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Okay, this refers to the hard skill and soft skill that students have after completing a STEM course in educational unit. Yeah, the competency-based curriculum implemented in the learning outcome of education unit. So the student have hard skill and soft skill after completing course in STEM education unit. And rapid development in ICT also shape the learning paradigm from teacher-centered learning to student-centered learning. We have known that teacher-centered learning, in this case, the teacher is more dominant in the learning process, and the student is passively transform the information from the student. The teacher is a center of the knowledge and in charge of learning. And a student are viewed as the empty vessel who passively receive knowledge from their teacher. In teacher-centered learning, the process of assessment is not as formative evaluation, but as a summative evaluation. It's meant that the assessment due at the end of the semester. So this is have the weakness. The teacher cannot the data to how to improve the process of learning in the class. Student-centered learning is the opposite of teacher-centered learning. Yeah, in student-centered learning, the student is more active, actively discuss in the class, and the focus on the student of need, abilities, interests, and learning styles. And in this case, the teacher can implement innovative approach in process learning in the class. Okay, and student-centered learning requires the student to be active, responsible participation in the learning process. Okay, this is the difference between the teacher-centered learning and student-centered learning. The benefit of student-centered learning permits opportunities to connect the content of real life. Okay, what is discussed in the class to always connect to the real life. For example, in teaching about the literature, especially in writing short story, for example, the teacher not only discuss about what is definition of short story and what is the requirement of good short story, something like that. But the teacher give the example. Okay, this is the good short story, and give task the student how to make good short story. Okay, this is the opportunity to contact the content of to real life. And the second one is provide opportunities for higher order thinking, as opposed to the passive learning. In student-centered learning, we always lead the learning process to achieve the high order thinking skill of the student, not only memorizing about the concept, but in this case, the student give the impact or feedback how to improve higher order thinking skill in learning process. And number three, promote greater student faculty and student interaction. In student student-centered learning, the student will have opportunity to interact with the student with their fear, and interact the student with the teacher, with a teacher in the classroom. And number four, provide for improvement social skill, greater acceptance of other, and greater sense of community in the class. And number five, encourages alternative from of assessment. In the student-centered learning, the assessment process not at the end of the semester, but the assessment do in the process of learning. For example, by asking a question and observe about the attitude of the student during the learning process, and after that, after process assessment done, the teacher will have information how to promote and how to refine the process of learning process in the class. Okay, this is the comparison between teacher-centered learning and student-centered learning. Okay, the first one is teacher-centered learning is transforming knowledge from the lecture to student. Okay, in this case, the teacher is more dominant to transform knowledge to the student, and the student are actively involved in transforming knowledge. And the second one is student receive knowledge passively. In this case, because of the dominant of teacher in the classroom. So the student is passively transform the information from the teacher, and the student are actively involved in managing knowledge. So in student-centered learning, the student are not increase about the knowledge, but also increase about the attitude and increase about the psychomotor. So after completing instant course in the educational unit, the student have hard skill and soft skill. Okay, number three, put more emphasis on mastering the material, and for the student-centered learning, not focus on the mastering the material, but also developing learning attitude. Okay, in the teacher-centered learning, advice on the mastering the material. Okay, this is the goal of teacher-centered learning. How to finish the material based on the syllabi on the curriculum. But in student-centered learning, not focus of the mastering the material, but the student have the attitude, and the student have psychomotor after completing their in certain course. Okay, but in teacher-centered learning use single media, and student-centered learning use multimedia. We can combine the approach, for example, from the cooperative learning and combined to the problem-based learning, something like that. Okay. And number 5 is the function of a lecturer providing domain information and evaluator. Okay, this is clear. And the lecturer function as a motivator and facilitator and evaluator. Okay, in this case, in the student-centered learning, the teacher is a facilitator. How to facilitate the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor to the student. So in this case, the teacher can support learning. Sorry, if the learning process, the teacher has a facilitator to make easier to student to understand about the subject. Okay, number 6, the learning and assessment process is done separately. Okay, the learning process, but I have discussed just now. In a teacher-centered learning, the assessment is at the end of the semester, but in student-centered learning, assessment due in the process and at the end of learning process. Okay, in pandemic COVID-19, everything is changed. Yeah. All sector of life has changed, including the way of learning. Yeah. During this time, learning process through face-to-face interaction, we feel comfortable using this strategy. Include me in our university because of the curriculum not set up to use blended learning or combine between face-to-face and online learning. But based on my experience, okay, the learning process through a face-to-face interaction. But in pandemic COVID-19, we forced to use e-learning process. So we find a difficulty in implementing about online learning in the class. Okay, face-to-face interaction. Okay, the advantage of face-to-face interaction is face-to-face learning is immediate. Yeah, instructor immediately decrease the distance between student and faculty. Okay, the dialogue and collaboration, yeah, real time with all ones, yeah, expression of human interaction, and there is a visceral connection to another. Okay, this is the characteristic of face-to-face interaction because we meet together in the class, so we can improve your interaction from student to teacher and teacher to the student. Okay, this is about the face-to-face interaction, characteristic of face interaction. In face-to-face interaction, we can observe about the attitude of the student during attending the class by observe about the attitude and how to student finish the task and how to student interact with their file. So in the face-to-face interaction, the teacher give information, and after that to do a reflection and how to increase, how to involve the student intensively in the learning process using face-to-face interaction. Okay, so I think is okay. In pandemic COVID-19, for us to use your online learning, okay, this is the problem to do learning process in the pandemic COVID-19, and we have not done yet preparation in implementing online learning because of the curriculum is not set up for online learning process. Yeah. In my university, before the pandemic COVID-19, we use face-to-face learning process, and we have not done yet, prepare to combine the learning process, face-to-face and online learning. And based our experience, there are many ways to do online learning. The first one is using MidGC, Google Classroom, Zoom, and WhatsApp group. Initially, students enthusiastic in joining online learning, but there are many problems during online class implementation. Initially, the student is enthusiastic joining the online learning. Okay, but this problem is such as poor access of internet, more internet package cost, and lack of knowledge about the technology. Okay, this is the problem we find when we do a learning process by using online learning. Okay. Okay, Kusumo conduct research about the problem of learning faced by the student. Okay. This is the table, a problem learning from the student perspective. Okay. The student find the connection problem. Yeah, and the second one is difficulties in understanding the material, and the third one is the lack of discipline and independency to study, and the lack of knowledge about the technology. Okay, this is the problem find when we use e-learning process during the pandemic COVID-19. Okay, how to solve this problem? I think the first one is betterment of infrastructure related to the connection of internet. Okay, this is the big problem, and how to increase about the bandwidth of the internet. And second one is familiarize the student to study independently. Okay, in learning of process, the student lead to the independently in learning process. It is far different when we use face-to-face interaction or face-to-face learning process in the class. The guru, the teacher still control the process of the class. So the student is not dependent or independently in learning process. Okay, and number three, students increase their skill in operating technology. Okay, this is the problem and how to solve the problem. So online learning in the future, we have two good way to solve the problem in implementing e-learning process in the class. Okay, blended learning.
Sorry to interrupt, Bapak. You have 5 minutes left.
Okay, thank you.
Please.
Okay, how to solve this problem? Yeah, we have to choose the blended learning, mix of combination of offline and face-to-face traditional learning and online learning in a way that one complement the others. Okay, there are many research that demonstrate that the students have a greater satisfaction with the blended course compared with the both traditional face-to-face and fully online modes of education. Okay, this is I would like to inform that this is the Ron Austin and Dennis York and Susanta Marta from the York University, Canada, do research concerning student perception and achievement in university blended learning strategy. Okay, I would like to. So, okay, this is there are 3 questions. How do perception and satisfaction with the blended course are related to the achievement? Okay, in this research, the researcher compare high achieving student to the low achieving student. But okay, this is the a result of for the first question is high achieving students are more motivated and interested their effort in the course than low achieving student. And the second one is high achieving student prefer the blended format over fully face-to-face or online. And the third one is, on the other hand, the lowest achiever were the least satisfied and prefer face-to-face interaction. Okay. And then this is the second question. How do perception of the convenience afforded by blended learning relate to the achievement? Okay, this is the answer. High achievement students feel convenient and flexible in blended courses, and the format of blended learning allow them to make a more efficient use of their time. Okay, this is the last question. How do perception and engagement in blended learning cause to relate the achievement? Okay, this is the answer. High achieving students fully participate in online activities as well as face-to-face classes. And the last one is they participate in discussion, particularly in small group discussion within structure and their peers. Thank you, Dedi.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for interesting presentation, Pak Suar. Well, all keynote speakers have presented their materials. Well, we would like to have Q&A session now. There are numbers of questions being asked. Before we go to the discussion or Q&A, don't forget to give a big clap for all presenters. Well, for the first session, I will ask one question of each speaker. We do have a time. We would like to discuss the next question. There are a number of questions from Ibu Artini, but we cannot discuss all of them. We have selected the question who can represent most of the question of you. Ibu Artini, have you still connected with us?
Yes, I am connected, of course. Thank you.
You actually have a lot of questions, Ibu.
Yes,
but
I
we
checked
have
from
a
the
very
chat.
limited
Yeah.
time today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the questions.
All right, I will ask one of the questions that have been selected. Okay, it's from Cristianto. Advise how to improve the student engagement in a situation, and what kind of learning activities and media to promote the students' learning quality that keep up the standard.
Okay.
Is it quite clear for you, Ibu?
Yes, it is very clear. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cristianto, for the questions. I'm not quite sure in what level Mr. Cristianto is teaching. Dedi, do you have the information about the level of student that he teach? Is it?
I'm afraid I don't have that information.
Yeah, okay, because this is really different when we talk about adult learners and young learners or school students, yeah. Engagement is very important, but with the not normal situation for now, engagement doesn't only mean, engagement physically, like what happened in the classroom, but when we engage them in the process of learning, when we organize a virtual learning or online learning, actually we engage them, yeah. Even though we don't have a face-to-face, a face-to-face moment, with the student, when we design an activity, we have to think about making them engage, yeah, engage not physically but only but mentally. So in other words, they have to use their thinking, they have to use the critical thinking, creative thinking, they have to find the materials from different sources. That's an engagement, yeah. They have to read the material, that's an engagement. They have to present the material in a small report, that's an engagement, yeah. Or maybe they have to also to make a video, or they have to watch a video. So if you you give them video to watch and they watch video, that's engagement. So engagement here is not probably very much on the interpersonal interpersonal interaction with other students when they do the work, but they have to do it by themselves. And then after that, the teacher can organize a meeting. So in the meeting, an online meeting, I mean, it can use like Zoom or maybe Google Meet or Google Classroom or maybe WebEx, whatever, or maybe WhatsApp, yeah. First you have to unlock your device. Sorry. Yeah, so when you have organize a meeting like in every 2 weeks, if it is not possible to do it in every 2 weeks, then you can engage everyone to speak. You can make everybody listen to everybody else. So that's the thing. So what media? So the question of what media, this is really depend on the level of the students. So if with adult learners, we can give them freedom to choose the media, but with the student, the younger learners, we can advise them to, for example, give them the video from YouTube and they watch that, or maybe you can use the interactive media like quizzes or hot potato, I don't know. So it's really depend on what level, but even though it is not the face-to-face classes, you still make them engage. So they engage with the material, they engage with the topic, they engage with the task. So that's an engagement. I hope that answered the questions. Thank you.
So thank you very much for the response, Ibu. It means that engagement doesn't necessary to human only, but also the engagement to material itself.
Yes.
All right, it's answering the question. Well, I would like to go to Ibu K for the second question. Ibu K, could you please turn on the microphone?
Okay.
All right, Ibu K. You have several us, but I select one which can represent most of the question.
Okay.
It's from Nitya Lakshmi. Would you please give us some example of the flexibility and the policy from the college? I mean, like it means like in US college that happen in the current situation. What kind of flexibility and policy that have been done there?
Well, in university level, we already use a lot of blended learning. So that part isn't very new. And most of the kinds of flexibility that I talked about are still in force. So people can select which courses they want to take, or they could they choose a major and a minor, or they can change their interest as they move through graduate school. So of course, there's a lot of disturbance to the programs due to the COVID-19. So people are trying to deal with that as well as they can. But I do think it's a bit easier in the US in that people are already using more blended learning than in Indonesia, I think. But as I mentioned, people are always finding the same thing in blended learning at every level, that the contact between the teacher and the learner and between learners is very important for that to be effective.
Well, it means that this flexibility and policy has been conducted before this pandemic, right? By selecting own major, by selecting own interests.
Yeah,
What you mean?
and then it's important that it starts from basic education. So by the time the students come to university, they're already quite used to that.
Well, is there any new policy during the COVID to show the flexibilities of the government?
Well, I think the universities have had to become more flexible, um, especially in cases where they're adapting to students having to complete or be present for exams and so forth. But I think some people also I saw ask about mindset, and probably that's harder to change than it is. In the US, we're already on a process of using a lot of blended learning. So it's more a matter of extending what's already been started, I'd say.
Okay, it's happened actually everywhere, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, noted, Ibu. Thank you for the response.
Okay.
The third question I will ask to Bapak Swar.
Yes.
So, Bapak Swar, this question is from Agung Redioka. It's how to actify the students with student-centered learning on e-learning. How to make students active as we as an activator to activate the students in online learning. Please, Bapak.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Agung. Yeah, in online learning, there is the requirement how to make the online learning active. But before we start to teaching Eastern material, yeah, we have to give the topic, yeah, for the next material. So the student anticipate or prepare themselves to join the learning process or in online learning process. Okay, based on this way, I believe that the student will actively discuss in the class. Okay, and I mean that in online learning process. And the second one, okay, you have to choose many or various way innovation approach in learning processes, not just use one method or one approach, but you have to combine to other method or other approach. But based on this argumentation, yeah, I believe that the student will actively join the class in online learning. I think is enough, Mr. Reddy.
Well, Bapak Swar, thank you for the response. So it means that we need to be creative and innovative to prepare or to use various learning methods, strategy, and approach. All right, thank you. So this is the question for all of the speakers today. It's from Victorious PVK. Sorry for if I pronounce your name incorrectly. What do you think about the issues on freedom to learn in context of online learning during the pandemic of COVID-19? Uh, well, I will repeat the question. What do you think about the issues on freedom to learn in the context of online learning during the pandemic of COVID-19? I will start from Ibu Artini. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Daddy.
You're welcome.
May I know who's the question from?
It's from Victorious PVK. I'm afraid I mispronounced the name.
Okay.
Victorious PVK.
Okay, thank you. I think it's Mr. Victorious. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. This is a question for all of us. This is about what do you think about freedom to learn in the context of what is that, Daddy?
Freedom to learn, Ibu.
In the context of?
Freedom to learn. Freedom to learn, Ibu.
In the context of?
Freedom to learn, Ibu. In the context of freedom to learn. I'm sorry, I will repeat the question. In the context of online learning during pandemics. Sorry.
Okay. What do you think about freedom to learn in the context of online learning? Yeah, online learning during the pandemic. As I mentioned in my presentation, freedom to learn involve a number of things. Yeah, a number of things. One of the point there in the freedom to learn is about the strategy or the form of learning activities, the form of learning experiences. So the forms, freedom to learn could be, I mentioned, yeah, it can be in the form of student exchange, can be in the form of intensive, and one of them is in the form of learning experiences. So this is the learning experiences, yeah, that we are talking about when we discuss freedom to learn in the context of online learning. So here, the experiences of learning are open or free for the student to utilize whatever media, yeah, to read whatever resources, to find whatever way and strategies, yeah, to adapt, as long as they could finalize the project. So this must be a careful planning of the project or careful planning of the task so that the student have the freedom to utilize any kind of facilities. I'll give you an example. In one of my projects, in one of the projects that I give to my students is to tell a story to children, yeah, to tell story, because this is one of the topic. This is one of the strategy for teaching English for young learners by using story. And one of the topic under the story is storytelling. So they have to have a presentation of a storytelling with the target age of students. So they have to imagine the age of the student. So they are free to imagine what age of student that they have to teach. For example, they targeted the student of the age of 6 years to 7 years. So this is free, yeah. And then the second one, they are free to choose the story. They can create their own story, or they can find a story and adapt the story. They have to simplify the language, and they have also to choose the media, yeah. And they have also to create properties for telling the story. whether they are going to have the properties, you know, like a mask, and then they have also the background of the forest, and they also have the freedom to have the background of the video. Yeah, so this is some kind of freedom that the student can do in the era of COVID. So this is actually a big learning, an integrated learning with the integrated skills. So this is a skill. Communication is there, you know, creativity is there, critical thinking is there, reasoning is there, why they have to choose that story, yeah, and management is there because they have to manage the time, yeah. And this is also to do with a lot of skill. Interpersonal skill is there because they have to communicate to young children. So how can they communicate to young children? What are the communication strategy that they have to use? So this is some kind of freedom that is an integrated skills, yeah, which is very, very, very important because there is a lot of freedom in doing the task. That's the answer from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ibu. I take one phrase here. It's it's related to form of learning, right? Ibu K, would you mind to have your thought about the issues on freedom to learn in the context of learning during the pandemic of COVID-19?
Well, broadly and optimistically, I hope it's a chance for teachers and learners to explore and be creative. But it also makes us all have to be more aware of the problems of lack of facilities for some students to be able to participate as well as others. So hopefully that's something that our societies will pay some attention to at this point and maybe make it better.
Well, thank you for the response, Ibu. I will
Okay,
highlight the lack of facilities here.
yeah,
So we need a lot of improvement. As
yeah,
what Ibu Artini said, it's like ahead, one step ahead. But it's for me, it's like 5 steps ahead because we like jumping a big jump today for the learning
yeah.
process. Okay, thank you very much, Ibu K. The next response are thought to Bapak Suar. Bapak, what do you think about the issues on freedom to learn in the context of online learning during pandemic of COVID-19?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Victorious. Yeah, in the context of freedom to learn, yeah, in the issues of COVID, context of COVID-19, I I just explained that in online learning process during the pandemic COVID-19, it is not allowed to do face-to-face interaction, but we have to choose the online learning and how to give the student the freedom to learn. But in online learning, because we have arranged the schedule or not fixed schedule as in face-to-face learning process, but we have a flexible schedule, and we can change the schedule from Sunday to Monday, Monday, Tuesday, and we have agreement to the teacher to do learning a process in online learning. Yeah, to give a freedom to the student in learning process during the pandemic COVID, the teacher must plan the learning process properly, so the student can involve actively in the process of I mean that in the learning process in online learning. Okay, I think this is the answer of question Mr. Victorious. Jadi,
All right, thank you very much for your response, Bapak. Because we still have the time left, I wanna ask the next question. So some of the question asking the same question. I wanna ask to Ibu Artini. There must be obstacles on online learning. They can't afford for quota. The internet access was horrible. And then how could we dealing with that problem?
Okay, thank
And,
you. Yeah.
and some of them mentioned that they need to do some work in the home, like housework there. How we can do, I mean, how we can deal with that problem actually.
Okay, thank you, Daddy. So for the questions here, I see in the chat a number of people asking similar questions regarding what about if the internet access is not good, yeah. This is the obstacle really when we have the online learning. So this is to do with the internet access. Not all students are advantaged enough to be in the area where internet is very easily, and strong, yeah. So for that reasons, we usually set a flexible time, yeah, for the activity. We give them tasks that make them explore and learn by themselves in their flexible time. And we will arrange a meeting in an agreed time. So we make an agreement, we talk about that, talk about the time together, and then finally decide on doing that in the agreed time. And it's not necessarily that we have it as scheduled as a normal class in which we have a weekly meeting. So this is really to do with how we can design a project that keep them learning and then check their progress through the easiest way of communication. For example, I did that through WhatsApp and say, how's your progress, everyone? Yeah, so we have the group. Well, how is there any problem, everyone? So a sharing, which is easier for us to do. And of course, yeah, we have to trust the student. I know that maybe some students not really doing it properly as what we expect them to do. It's very possible for them to cheat, or maybe they wait until the last minute of the due date. They do it, very quickly. It's very possible to do that. So that's why we have also. What I did is by making them having the portfolio and put the progress. So they usually put the progress in their portfolio, and we check the weekly progress if it is a big project. So every week we can see what they have done in a week. And we have also the self-assessment for the project, in which that keep them busy by themselves and also control their work, because nothing we can do. We are far away, but at least we do something to show them that the project is important for them to do, and that everybody will share the progress of the project. So that's I think we can do. So we don't set time like a normal class at 8 o'clock we start, yeah. yeah, it's true that the student, because they are home, the parents want to help with the housework. So that's why we have to have flexibility in time. I think that's my opinion. Thank you.
Well, that was very interesting. I learned a lot of things from that. I also feel the same to my students. Well, well, that was the presentation and discussion. We have to give a very, very big clap for all presenters today. Well, I would like to inform you that we will post the link of the certificate on the chat box. In order to get certificate, you have to make sure that you input the correct information, especially your email address. If you don't put the correct email, we cannot send the certificate to you. Well, participant, could you access the link of the certificate? Okay, thank you. Some of you showing your thumbs, meaning that it's accessible. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the response. But before we end the session, I would like to invite you to have the photo session. Please turn on all of your webcam video and show me your very nice angle of your photo. Okay, I will count it. 1, 2, cheese. One more time. 1, 2, and cheese. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I would like to thank to all the keynote speaker who can share the materials today, and all of the participants who are very active to ask. I do apologize, cannot answering all of your questions because we have very limited time here. Hopefully this webinar is beneficial for all of us here. At last, I would like to take a quote. Who dares to teach must never chase to learn. As what Ibu Atini said, as an educator, we never stop learning. Okay, have a big clap for all of us.
Yes. Lagi nggak apa-apa, lihat samian foto sila.
Good seminar.
Lihat tak
Thank you
sekolah.
much.
Yang fotokopi kan nggak apa-apa. Mudah-mudahan doa awak, ha? Ini saya dah kami yang. Dah, masih di anu aja, enggak keluar. Ada. Ada dah.
Country apa di nomor HP? Mana country? Indonesia tulis. Ini. Woi. Iya. Besar.
Besar. Ayo, bawa.
Mama kemana?
Well, everyone, this room will still can be accessed until 4 p.m.
Tulis nomor 5 aja. 5.
So you can use this room.
Tulis seminar is very good.
Say hello.
Enggak.
Thank you very much.
Seminar is very good.
Very good. Kasih. Mama mau lihat sananya. Kita lihat enggak?
We can hear our voice.
Pakai koma. M. Kemana larinya tuh?
Hapus.
Udah fix ya? Udah fix.
Email address. Tinggal. Your country, Indonesia.
Terbantu Mama kan?
Nggak terbantu. Aduh, Red. Mama good sih mau geser ini.
Biar dapat.
Okay, thank you so much. This seminar.
Tadi kok ada kayak bahasa Indonesia, si narator, narasumber itu kan?
Nggak tuh kok ya internasional.
Itu tadi ada yang bilang huruf tar.
Oh, itu antara sama awak lah, karena kina speakernya lah Pai. Lah keluar good presentation.
Ulang lah.
Jadi
nggak apa-apa. Kalau nak kau kirim, tak apa-apa.
Itu sabar Bu.
Kalau apa diulang enggak kan?
Iya diulang.
Kan? Ada 2 orang yang enggak ikut, Kak. Dia masih Messi ya. Udah nungguin bau. Mama ingin memberi foto, aku gak ada caranya. Udah kira.
Kok pakai masker?
Kok enggak ada orang awak pada Kak? Kayaknya internasional kan, banyak yang dari Bali. Pengikutnya yang kini speakernya lah keluar.
Tuh speaker.
Alah ngapain? Enggak tahu dah. Aku sike, kok ngapain aku? Ini boleh. Nah, itu ya.
Senang. Korang. Mama. Alah, nggak usah lah, udahlah, sana. Oh. Hello. Hello everybody. Ini apa nih baca ini? Ya feedback. Tulislah seminar is very good. Tapi udah di sini. Itu country kan ku bilang Indonesia, goblok kau. Udah dikubikin tadi Indonesia. Hello everyone. Halo yang lagi tidur Oppo 71. Iya.
Tuh, bonen malu. Ya, ada komennya.
Nah, nebus word nih. Nah. Apa WA?